Those that are concerned about election integrity have been holding Stop the Steal rallies throughout the nation, and not just limited to key battleground states. Our reporters were at such an event in Columbus, Ohio this past Saturday.
A crowd of Trump supporters in Ohio gathered in front of the state government building in downtown Columbus on Saturday afternoon. They came to voice their support for the president and concern over the integrity of this year's election. Some Biden supporters and Black Lives Matter demonstrators also showed up in opposition. We interviewed some of the participants at the Stop the Steal rally. Many said they want to defend America's constitutional republic and its democratic process.
This has been stolen right before our very eyes. In the mainstream media, like CNN, like ABC, like MSNBC, and even Fox News is complicit in this. Our election system is broken. It needs to be fixed. We knew this was coming, and it is time for reform.
We have to have this fight, and I hope that President Trump does not give up. We can't give up on this. This is what they do in dictatorships. This is the kind of shenanigans that are pulled in places like Venezuela and other countries, and so we have to have this fight, legally and civilly, but we have to have this fight.
We still have an uphill battle, but we're taking this to court, and we're going to try to do it right, because that's what we're preserving, the Constitution and the law.
Ohio is traditionally considered a key swing state, but President Trump was able to carry the state by more than 8 points in both 2016 and 2020, a win margin larger than the ones enjoyed by President Obama.
Hundreds of people gathered in Wisconsin's capital this weekend. Biden supporters turned out in Madison to celebrate Joe Biden as the next president, despite no official decision or transfer of power. And Trump supporters came out to pray for a fair election. They are also protesting against the results and alleging the election has been stolen. Our reporters were there.
On Saturday, hundreds of people gathered at the Capitol building in Madison, Wisconsin. About 100 Trump supporters rallied holding signs saying "Women for Trump, Trump 2020, and the blue American flag" in support of police. The two sides faced off in the street with Biden supporters beeping and giving Trump supporters holding the American flag a thumbs down. A Trump supporter, Jean Eckers, said people have every right to be suspicious of the integrity of the voting system. She says the increased use of mail-in voting allows for the possibility of fraud.
Oh, really sad and frightened. I didn't think it could happen here, and it really does frighten me. I just can't believe it, really, that when I see what's going on with what I think is fraud in our elections, if we can't trust the elections in the United States, I feel like we're in a lot of these socialist, communist countries, and I just hate to see with the United States coming anywhere close to that, and I really fear for our country.
Meanwhile, Biden supporters danced to the Cha-Cha Slide in Capitol Square. And closer to the building itself, members of the Asian American GOP coalition voiced their concerns.
I came from China. I do not want this place turning to China.
The group joined in prayer to ask for guidance, wisdom, and strength in the weeks and months ahead.
Heavenly Father, you brought us here on this stage on this day for a reason. We know that ultimately you are in control. You have a perfect plan for all of us. You have a perfect plan for our nation. So please be with us. Be with us in our angst and our concern and all that we're going through in this uncertain time. Be with President Trump, Vice President Pence.
And Biden supporters cheered from the steps of the Capitol, with one man dancing through a Honda's moonroof while waving a Biden-Harris sign. Eckers calls on Americans to pray for the country.
I think we need to all pray for the United States. I have a real faith in God, and I really do believe that good will triumph over evil. And I really do think that there's some evil right now in our government. And it scares me, and I really think everybody needs to start praying a little bit more. I think we've got to get more morality back into our world and just some more goodness into our world. So I guess the last thing I would say is please pray for our country.
Trump supporters urged the Republican Speaker of the Wisconsin State Assembly to investigate the state's election process. Speaker Robin Vos has directed a committee to investigate how the election was administered. Reporting by Sherry Liu and Kevin Hogan, NTD News.
A group of Trump supporters held a rally in Nevada to condemn alleged fraud in the 2020 election. Some of the attendees were Chinese American, and there were also people who came out from other states. One of the attendees called for another round of voting in January. We hear what our reporters found out there.
In Carson City, Nevada, dozens of Trump supporters came out to express outrage over the voting system in this presidential election. Trump supporters and Republicans across the country say there's been voter fraud and it's systematic. One attendee traveled from California to be there. He says he hasn't seen this much activism in the 40 years he's been involved in politics, and that there's still hope.
I've never seen the coalition that I see here right now. I've been to over 10 rallies all through the state of California. I've marched across the Golden Gate Bridge with homosexuals, with African Americans, with Hispanic Americans, with Asian Americans. I've walked with every walk of life, and it is so inspirational to see Americans get together like this.
Another Trump supporter, who's Chinese American, took the mic to say a few words on how calling herself American promotes unity.
We still have a lot of things to do because people using the name that calling to segregate the Chinese community, saying that if you see someone is saying Chinese virus, that means we're being discriminated. But that's not true. We're trying to tell each other we don't get labeled by China. We are no longer Chinese. We came to this country to seek a new reality, and this is where we are.
During the rally, a Trump supporter named Jim Groth read out President Lincoln's famous Gettysburg Address and then went on to give his own speech. He said during his speech that if the Biden campaign plans what he calls an illegitimate takeover, they should hold a new vote from January 5th to January 9th. He also said the new vote should be held in person, rather than by mail. Mail-in voting has been suspected of increasing the likelihood of fraud.
The fight to protect the vote is hard. I have two of my sons that have done 6 combat tours in the Middle East in the last 12 years. My uncle was a ball turret gunner on a B-17 bomber in World War II and flew not the required 30 missions, but 35 missions over Germany in World War II as a ball turret gunner. You know what? That was hard. That was hard. We should be able to stop the Twinkie on the couch generation, get off our butts and go vote and have it require some effort.
Democrat Joe Biden is currently leading in the swing state. The Trump 2020 campaign made it clear it would demand a recount in any state that it lost within a 1% margin or less.
Trump supporters held a vehicle parade in Long Island, New York on Sunday. They voiced their suspicions about the 2020 election results and the voting process. Our reporters were there.
Trump supporters in Long Island, New York, drove their cars down the street one after the other, waving flags and honking their horns. Others stood to the side, holding banners. Their turnout was part of something called Stop the Steal, a movement started by conservatives to protest the alleged voter fraud in the 2020 election. One of the participants said, "There's no logic between Biden's victory and the number of voters who came out to support him before the election."
Hey, listen, supposedly there was some error with the ballots. Let's wait and see, and whoever's the man or whoever team won, it's fine with that, okay? But there's a lot of corruption going on, and the American people are tired of it because Joe was hiding in his basement, okay? And he never had rallies like Trump did. And now you're saying that he won? How could that be? The American people are not stupid.
In the months leading up to the election, Democrat nominee Joe Biden spoke at rallies where people socially distanced or watched from their cars. According to a Reuters fact check, Biden's rallies were small to limit the spread of the virus, not because he had low support. Regardless, another Trump supporter said that they have to fight for the future of the children.
The children are the ones that are going to be affected by this. We unfortunately have to stand by and suck it up, but this is not fair to them.
Trump has refused to concede and promised to start prosecuting starting Monday.